to Untitled.mov, critically acclaimed as surprisingly good by our, critics.
Our YouTube comments section.
Yeah. We have comments.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah, anyway,
It's weird. I don't like processing that people actually watch this.
It's a Kory.
All I can see is your legs. Anyway, we're in the very
sorry,
Christmassy...
I forgot to get into position.
This is the Untitled.mov Christmas special. Yay!
I was going to say, we're in a very Christmassy set of some tinsel, 2 trees, and a hat.
And a jumper.
Oh, and jumpers. We're wearing jumpers.
Anyway, What's happened in the past month?
Very good question. First of all, Advent of Code has happened.
Some of us have been doing it.
Hang on, whoa. What is Advent of Code, first
Advent
of all?
of Code is a competition. No, less of a competition, more of a game that's been running since, I think, at least 2018, probably earlier, where every day from December 1st to 24th, there is a coding puzzle. They start out rather simple, and they get very, very difficult later down the line. And
an example of this would be, hey, we've given you this long list of strings, find an A in each. I can't think of an example. I don't know where I started.
Except it gets a lot more complicated than that. In 2019, over several days, you were building up the virtual machine for a programming language.
Exactly.
So we've been doing it in a couple different languages. We've been doing it in C++, mainly because I've been wanting to learn C++, partly because I interact with it at work, and partly because I just wanted to learn it.
I did it in initially Python, and I'll say why I said initially. At work, once again, I use PowerShell a lot. Don't question it. We use Windows a lot. And I don't know PowerShell, so I wanted to do it in PowerShell to kind of get the hangs of it. But it can be quite tricky. Advent of Code can be so tricky sometimes that I actually have to do it in Python first and then essentially translate that logic into PowerShell. So I did it in both.
Funnily enough, you're not the only person I know who's doing it in PowerShell.
I'm not really doing it in PowerShell, though. I'm doing it in Python and just translating the logic.
And Cameron, what language did you do it in?
Yes, you did it in a rather special
I was gearing up. I did it in Python last year. I was gearing up to do it in Python again this year. And then I saw a message come through on the URY Slack saying, so who's doing it in Excel this year? And so I ended up doing it in Google Sheets. I got about 7 days in before reaching the limits of Google Sheets, which I was, to be honest, fairly pleased with. Some of them are actually quite neatly solvable.
I think 7 days is actually more than I got with doing an actual language, mostly because I had a full-time job to go back to. But
it's more than I got without a full-time job. I might do 1 day this year.
Yeah, but my full-time job sometimes requires me to work evenings, which means when I get home, I go to bed.
There were quite a lot of kind of 2D grid-based puzzles this year that lent themselves quite nicely because I could kind of have one row per cell in the grid and then apply some logic to try and spot patterns and that sort of thing.
I mean, you showed me one of them and it looked really pretty.
And really complicated.
Some of them are just multi-thousand row monstrosities where I'm doing a ton of different checks on the data.
How long did it take each day?
Some of them came together relatively quickly, some of them took forever because it was just...
How long is forever? Just general time.
I was going to say, neither of those are an actual time.
There are probably 1 or 2 that took 3 hours.
That's a lot of dedication to Google Sheets. Is all I'll say.
Yep.
Anyway, speaking of a lot of dedication, you know what DPD don't have?
That's right. I believe
dedication to getting Unicode right.
Yeah.
The D in DPD does not stand for dedicated.
No. As with seemingly everything sucks.
Is this your new segment? Everything sucks.
I mean, Stratford's law.
Yeah.
That just hates everything.
I'm not trying to be. They just don't. They all just suck. But this one is DPD, where first it said, presumably Joe. I don't know what the characters would have been, but. I never found out because then the delivery was then actually arrived at by Mark in capitals. So I don't know what happened. Who if there was an assassination involved. Somewhere there was a switcheroo. Yeah, well, you would have thought that tracking would help you to find out, but seemingly not. It's the tracking that doesn't work. So yeah, that kind of sucked.
Next up.
So, I came to a realization, prompted by a realization, and as I'm scrolling back to find my notes. So, I posted a slightly a slightly tongue-in-cheek message in Untitled Slack of, you can tell that my day is going either really well or really badly by when I start unironically listening to Taylor Swift. And then I came to a follow-up realization of her latest album, The Tortured Poets Department, which we are massively late to the party of criticizing. I noticed a pattern. The songs that I liked in it, nearly all of them were produced by / written in various combinations by Aaron Dessner, and the songs that I disliked or felt meh on, nearly all of them were produced / written / both by Jack Antonoff. It's a very interesting pattern. Let me give you some examples.
I thought Taylor Swift sang them.
She sang them, but she has writers to co-write them.
Oh.
And producers to produce them.
Hardly know.
So, thank you. So, Fortnite, produced by Antonoff. Meh.
Like the game.
Misspelled. The title track, produced by Antonoff. Meh. My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys, produced by Antonoff. Meh. Down Bad, produced by Antonoff. I've started to like it, so I'll count that as one of the exceptions. So Long London, produced by Dessner. I like it. But Daddy, I Love Him, produced by both, written by Dessner. I like it. Fresh Out the Slammer, produced by Antonoff. It's all right. Florida, 3 exclamation marks, featuring Florence and the Machine, produced by Antonoff, and it's pretty good. I have opinions on it, but they're too in-depth, too long to go into it. Guilty as Sin, produced by Antonoff. Not my favorite. Who is Afraid of Little Old Me, produced by Antonoff. The other exception, I like it. I Can Fix Him No Really I Can, produced by Antonoff. Meh. LOML, all lowercase, produced by Dessner. I like it. I Could Do With a Broken Heart, produced by Antonoff. I like it. Exception number 3. The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, produced by Dessner. Yes, good. The Alchemy, produced by Antonoff. It's all right, a little bit boring. And Clarabelle, produced by Dessner. The exception, didn't really like. Taylor Swift opinions. Here you go. Didn't think you had that coming on Untitled.mov, the tech show about tech.
I recognize about 3 of those song titles, which as a self-proclaimed fan of her music tells you everything you need to know about my opinions on that album.
In fairness, I'm not talking about the anthology because I didn't really like the anthology.
Oh, I tapped out this album the first version came out. I know she kept doing different ones. I stopped listening.
Speaking of things related to Kory that tapped out.
Well, what's on the screen? I can't see it.
Hang on, let me do the reading.
We're going to do a dramatic reading of a message that Kory sent to our Slack, and Kory will elaborate on.
So, who wants to spot what issue I've run into from the following information? 1. I self-host my own instance of Vaultwarden on my own domain. 2. My Cloudflare 2FA information is in my Vaultwarden. 3. Vaultwarden needs SSL to allow you to log in. 4. BT likes to cycle my public IP and I haven't been able to get Cloudflare's DNS working yet.
Nice.
I see the problem.
So,
This is why I use Google authentication for my stuff and...
This is why I use Tailscale for my stuff.
Tailscales are another good way to do it.
well, that's the thing, because the problem with using Tailscale is I do have Tailscale, right? And I can get to, like, the server that my Vault one's on was on my local network at the time, so I could get to it. The problem is, Vaultwarden needs SSL to let you log in.
Tailscale can do HTTPS.
What?
Tailscale can do HTTPS.
No, it doesn't like that.
Tailscale can do valid
it might be.
HTTPS.
I was going to say, Tailscale, I did it before I
Okay,
had a domain.
well, I didn't have that set up either.
Well,
so
that's how you fix it.
Problem fixed!
Well,
Thank you for calling me Agony Aunt.
This is a thing that just recently resurfaced. I will now do a dramatic reading of some commit messages in the history of an unknown repo in the YSDV GitHub organization. Time zones! Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Moves the problems pill to the same place as the other pills. Fucked the merge. How did I never fix this label? Damn you, time zones. Whoops, this code was so old we weren't mobile friendly yet. Un-Spicies My Frontend, bracket, I learned how to use mapping. And the final one in this series, that was stupid.
Why did you say those in reverse order?
Oh, I thought they were in reverse chronological order. No, No, Cameron put them in the right order.
I did.
Now, you have two options. Either we accept it, or you do some very careful editing to get them back in the right order. Take your
Or we
pick.
just read it again.
We don't have time.
I think this would make a good list of song titles if you ever did an album.
Nah,
Oh, is this the Untitled Christmas album?
That's the Untitled Christmas album.
I mean, you just need a few more, and then you could do a calendar.
Imagine the song.
Can we do an Untitled Sexy Christmas calendar?
Imagine the song
No.
Un-Spicies My Frontend. I learned how to use mapping. That would be what a song.
The sequel to Florida, 3 exclamation marks. Time Zones, 3 exclamation marks. Featuring not Florence and the Machine. Because we can't afford that. Speaking of things we can't afford.
Featuring just the machine.
So, a friend of mine, a certain Alex Towles, who...
Hi, I'm Alex Towles.
I'm Alex Towles. I don't know if that was synced because of the delay, but that was
was not.
So, he hosts a podcast about sports ball called the Pot Shop Podcast. You should probably go listen to it if you're interested in sports ball. And it's probably pretty
Links
good
on
to
the
follow.
screen now.
And it's probably pretty good to fall asleep to if you don't know anything about sports ball. So, his normal editor was in exam hell, so he asked me
Predisposed.
to edit one episode of the podcast and then asked me to do another one later on. So I decided to try a piece of software that I had used before, but not in a very long time and isn't built for this sort of thing, but it'd probably work. Apple's Logic, which is Apple's music production software, but it turns out it's actually pretty good for editing things that aren't music. Because there's a couple of settings you can change in it. You can set it so that the ruler, the thing that shows you the times, is in time rather than beats and bars. And also, the thing that I realized about a third of the way through editing the first one, which I probably should have realized sooner, is on like the very left-hand side of the screenshot that we've got there, there is a section for clip defaults. And one of the options in there is loop, which by default, if you insert a clip, will make it loop forever until you make it not loop. That was on by default and confused me quite a bit. Then I disabled it and everything was fine. Logic's review as a podcast editing tool, pretty good. Is it worth the full asking price for, I don't know how much, edit in a big caption in Rainbow Comic Sans of how much Logic full version costs? I'll think about
God,
it.
you're all giving me such a big edit job today.
You signed up for this.
I would
Even
say-
I've got to edit this as well. This is new.
I'm just imagining, like, do you know when you get, like, the timestamps underneath, like, a YouTube video of, like, things that happen at different points? I'm just imagining that, but in beats and bars instead of in,
What BPM, though?
We're talking about this topic 52 bars into the podcast.
Well, hang on. No, because we talk about tech, so that means we're a techno genre. So it's probably like it's probably like 160, something like that, 180.
Speaking of time...
Just to interject quickly, Logic Pro from the App Store is £199.
Oh, that's less than I thought.
And I believe
Well,
actually
sorry,
£199.99.
there was an
We're
update
just
recently,
editing
wasn't there?
Jamie saying the price
Was there?
into where Mark's didn't know the price instead of having the whole... Just editing Jamie in the middle, just going, $199.99.
Yes.
Did you go straight down
And then
the
it carries
camera
on with
with
Mark's spiel.
No, I think I was looking at my...
Well, do it again.
Okay. I have just looked it up, and Apple's Logic Pro from the App Store is £199 and 99 pence.
Wow.
There we are. Throw that in the edit, Cameron.
Speaking of time,
Yes, that's actually a good link. Well done.
I'm trying.
Okay. I thought you
Not
were just saying
making
the
it
last thing we
easy.
talked about.
So that Taylor Swift album, right?
Right.
Thanks,
so
Jamie.
this was kind of coming off the Rose's scheduling conversation we had. You made a joke in Slack about creating a new time zone called Rose's Standard Time that you reference in your code. And
Yes.
you should know much better than to make those kind of jokes around me at this point.
It's the little comedy act you two
So,
have going. Mark says something as a joke, and then, a month later, Cameron's made it.
My first
Or
thought
the other way
was-
round.
was that Rose's Standard Time, of course, would be the local solar time in whatever the host's university is that year. So in a York hosting year, it would be the local time in Heslington, and in Lancaster, it would be the local time in
Which,
Dale.
for avoidance of doubt, is not Greenwich Mean Time or British Summer Time.
Correct.
It is
So-
the solar time.
Yeah, so basically, if you're not familiar with the concept, we create times that time is kind of a continuous thing. So as you move,
Time is relative.
as you
And
move,
dimension in space.
Time is dependent on
Why does
maths.
anyone watch this?
Good question. Yeah, basically, these 1 hour time zones that we have, and occasionally half an hour and even more occasionally quarter of an hour, are a very human invention of, for our own convenience, everyone within this country agrees on what time it is. Or
It's just a
region of the
construct.
country. But actually, you know, as you move, it's your longitude that determines what the local time is. And you can calculate what that relative difference is. So I looked it up and I found out, I did the maths, I found out Heslington is 4 minutes behind UTC and Belrig is 11 minutes behind. And then I thought you could make a shortcut out of this. And so I did. I will put a link in the description.
You can download it here.
Yeah, I'll put in an iCloud link. But basically it
This
takes...
QR code.
It will take either your
I have
current
it.
location, you can just select a location so you can type in an address, or you can use it from the share sheet on an Apple Maps link, and it will tell you what time it is currently there and what the offset is from UTC. So I can tell you that where we are doing this show right now, we are exactly 1 minute and 18 seconds behind Greenwich Mean Time.
That's
Cameron.
pointless.
Completely pointless.
Handy to know.
In the nicest way possible, could you describe to me a genuine use case for
Oh,
this?
that's very
There
much
is
not
one.
one.
The use case is fun.
Yeah.
Is this just an excuse for like, oh well, everything that doesn't connect to the internet has a different time, and we're just trying to find a time zone that it is valid in?
Yes. So you see, this Raspberry Pi I have in the corner is actually valid in Iceland.
It is a very much kind of a
It's
stop
just the
clock is right twice a day
twice
thing.
a day.
It literally is 5 o'clock somewhere.
Exactly. And we're going to work out exactly where.
Speaking
that'd
of
be,
something
that'd
that
be
is...
a really fun segment. Sorry, could you reverse this to get a lot long from a
From a time.
Yes.
Oh,
From-
Cameron,
yes, I could
yes.
get the longitude from
That's
a
a new
time.
update. Add it.
Because then we could genuinely do a thing where we go around our like things, find out how far they are off, like how far they've like deviated, and then find out where they would be valid based on how far they've deviated from actual time.
So
Time
I've got
hunters.
my sound desk that's valid in Germany or
Germany 5 years ago.
well, actually, all this talk of time relates quite brilliantly to our next slide. Cameron, if you could please.
So, we did talk about, in an earlier episode,
Last time.
about Spotify's day list and the fact that it is absolutely making up music genres that do not in any sane way exist. We've had some more.
It's not going to become a new segment, we promise.
No, we will, however, complain about it once in a while because we find it genuinely ridiculous. So how, for instance, Kory had a Unrequited Love Poetry Afternoon playlist.
It didn't quite fit my mood, to be honest.
I shall just read the description is you listened to soundtrack and anime in the afternoon, so here's some unrequited love, poetry, sweater weather, heartache, crying, and desiderium.
Yes.
Those are those music genres? Am I too young for this?
They've Shakespeare'd their way out of the popular user base. I don't think anyone who actually understands that uses Spotify.
Well,
vice
yes.
versa.
Meanwhile, on the same afternoon, I had a Sad Girl Yearning Monday Afternoon day list featuring Sad Girl, Yearning, Bed Rotting, Journaling, Ethereal, and Soul Crushing. None of those are genres of music.
And one of them isn't linked.
No. And then our
Are
friend...
you okay?
We'll discuss that later.
Poor sad
and then,
girl.
Okay.
And then Diz, who unfortunately could not make it on the show today, had a progressive rock 70s Monday afternoon day list featuring progressive rock, Canadian rock, 70s, progressive metal, arena rock, and hard rock. At least it's internally consistent.
What is progressive rock?
That is a real
That's a
genre
fair
of
genre.
music.
What? I am out of
Prog
the loop.
rock.
It's pretty much Dark Side of the Moon style thing, isn't it? It's just rock.
Oh,
it's
maybe.
vaguely rock style instruments played very slowly.
I mean, from one very strange thing to one more cursed thing, let's say.
You've taken over my shtick.
Would you like, Marks, to tell us why on earth, in this screenshot of Minecraft behind me, it is asking for you to log into your GitHub?
I'd quite like to know myself. Apparently. So, when I log into my Minecraft account, it asks me to log in with my Microsoft account.
Naturally.
Which I will very quickly throw in a quick rant. The Mojang to Microsoft account transition and the fact that they said that after a certain date, you just cannot migrate it over. And if you had a copy of Minecraft on a Mojang account, well, you don't have it anymore. That's
just
incredibly
wiped
frustrating.
it. It was such a stupid thing.
Well, shame about those 20 quid. Anyway, yes. So I sign into Minecraft using my Microsoft account, and apparently I sign into my Microsoft account using my GitHub account. Therefore, to sign into Minecraft, I have to sign into GitHub.
Which is quite a rather funny chain of events.
I do like that all three of these are owned by Microsoft, so it's
Well,
one
yes.
Microsoft server with Minecraft pinging another one to ask, hey, log into this account, which pings then the Microsoft's GitHub server to say, hey, we need this account.
And this
then
is
it
why
falls all
logging
the way
into
back down.
Microsoft takes so long, because it has to bounce around every single Microsoft
has to
product
go-
logging you in.
It's going, hello, 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 hello.
Hello, terribly excuse me, GitHub, but do you happen to have an account for this?
Yes, let me just send it to my friend, who'll send it to my friend, who'll send it back to the user.
And then you'll get 2 layers of 2FA, and at least in my case at work, I now have an account that is kind of weirdly broken in such a way that I have to log into everything twice.
Oh, yep, same. I
Yeah.
have to 2FA about 3 times to get onto my GitHub at work. But I mean, from one thing that kind of works but is a bit cursed to another that doesn't work at all.
I had a better idea.
Okay, sorry, let's do yours.
But speaking of Microsoft products that don't quite work,
Oh, yep, no, that was better.
it's time to go to our regularly scheduled programming of Don't Use Windows for Signage. Here are a few images sent in by the crew.
The one on the left, that's
First
me.
on the
that
left.
was from Westfield.
So it
Shepherd's
was.
Bush. I was meeting up with a friend after work and came across that, which is quite a stellar example of. Don't use
Especially
Windows
given
for
that
signage.
looks like the Windows 7 at the latest blue screen of death.
Oh, yeah, no, that is an old blue screen of death. So that's impressive.
Then the middle one, I think that one was you, Matthew, wasn't it?
Oh, yes. No, it was my parents, actually. We've got... They don't even watch the show. They are providing content anyway. Yes, it's just a digital signage board that is literally saying digital signage and then some kind of like, please provide content here.
Excellent.
Media missing.
So, yeah. Yeah, that was in some hotel in Spain somewhere, I think. Yeah. Don't know what else. Oh, we've got reoccurring ones.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
it is, we need. It is. The time has come to. Oh, I've knocked over
We're
Matthew's
having
Pepsi.
an intervention.
Yes, dear friends of the show, Untitled.mov, we ask you to stop.
Yes.
Stop.
It's become quite a
Sending us
theme.
images of the signage board outside the York Piccadilly branch of German Doner Kebab showing a Windows error message. We know it's broken.
It hasn't been working for
In months.
at least a year.
I have a suggestion. I have
what?
Do you reckon we could do an episode of Entitled from that German doner kebab?
No, absolutely not.
If we ask really
Especially
nicely.
once we point out that their ordering kiosks have unactivated Windows.
That's my favourite bit.
Oh, yeah, we wouldn't steal.
Well,
we
maybe
wouldn't
we-
use their network at all.
In return, we fix it for them.
We offer to go in and fix it.
I don't think we can.
Well, I could turn the monitor off.
Oh, we'll plug in a Kory monitor and have Kory.
Permanently
me all the time.
gazing at passers-by on one of York's busiest shopping streets.
I mean, at work, we've now got new coffee machines, which have a lovely video that plays, including an interview with some guy that's important in coffee world. And what the fuck? But the coffee machine has no speakers. It is literally a coffee machine playing an interview that you have no ability to understand.
That just reminds me of the Costa Express machines at, I think it's my local co-op, but I've seen it other places as well, where while making your coffee, they play you coffee shop ambience sounds through the speakers. While making a very much machine coffee rather loudly, almost but not quite drowning out the ambience. Yes, good impression, Matthew. Thank you.
It's this like noises of ding ding coffee making.
Right, speaking of whatever that just was, it's now time for another recurring segment that on this show that we like to call, well,
Equals.
that's the name we use in branding. The internal code name for this segment is AI Bollocks, because that's exactly what we're going to be talking about.
Exactly. So E equals MC MC squared.
You're the
plus
physicist
AI.
here.
Not quite yet. Almost.
On its way.
Anyway, Cameron, roll the content.
So, first up, Spotify Wrapped happened. And
Yes.
of course.
I mean, there's a bit
had
of a
AI
common
in it.
theme of our kind of opinion of Spotify recently, and it wasn't helped greatly by the fact that the Spotify Wrapped was all AI bollocks. I mean,
Yeah.
Like, they have their whole AI DJ thing, don't they?
Oh, yes, that has never worked properly. I tried it. It randomly gets very confused about what it's supposed to be doing.
yeah, from my very brief, because I don't have premium. I had someone else do it once in front of me, and from my very, very brief experience, it played completely random music, and it just sounded really unsettling.
Anyway, speaking of Spotify Wrapped, in previous years, everyone's been quite looking forward to it because it has some genuinely interesting statistics about your listening. Like, I think last year, they looked at your overall taste profile and then gave you a city that listens to the same sort of music as you do on average, which is an interesting stat, at least. I'm not quite sure how they're calculating it, but it's genuinely ooh, that's clever. This year, they've given you an AI podcast in collaboration with NotebookLM by Google, which is just 2 AI voices telling you about your music listening.
And it sounds
Yeah.
incredibly weird.
So I listened to. I wasn't originally going to listen to mine because like AI bollocks, but then I thought, you know what, I'll listen to it as like research for this, and it's so like off-putting because they really want to make it feel like personalized. So they say your name like every sentence.
Oh God!
I
want to hear the
I said
badly
this.
mispronounced some.
It felt like I was like being weirdly flirted with, and then like in a weird way where they're giving you too much attention, that kind of thing. And then at one point, they just make this weird noise. Like, the AI was just, like, messed up somewhere. So there's like, dum-dum-dum, yeah! And then they carried on talking. And I was
Yeah,
like,
that
what
sounds
the
like a
fuck?
generation glitch. Meanwhile, my account, which for some reason doesn't have all the AI features on it, I just got a somewhat boring Spotify Wrapped. It's like, here's their top artists, here's your top songs, here's a video of the members of the band Coldplay telling you that they appreciate you for listening to them.
I got that from Katy Perry.
That sounds like Apple Music Replay.
Moving on.
Oh, well, hang on. So Deezer was actually good this year, probably because they copied what Spotify did last year.
Ah.
And so probably next year, it will also be trash.
Do you know my favourite Wrapped? Thank God. Monzo told me what I spent all my money on. If I hadn't had that, I would have broken down.
Was it
I love
Greg's?
Monzo just telling everyone that they're in like the top 10% of Greg's spenders.
Doesn't surprise me.
Well, is that worldwide? Because that's probably about right.
Well, yeah,
It
true.
probably is about right. if it
UK-wide.
was.
Yeah, I mean, Monzo isn't my primary account, so it told me, you spent £5 on LNER, and that was about it.
From one case of AI going somewhat wrong, but in a amusing if disappointing way, to a case of AI going wrong having actual serious consequences, Kory.
Yes, so itch.io had a bit of a moment recently. For those,
For those
who don't
unaware,
know,
what is
itch.io
itch.io?
I was about to explain that before you interrupted me, Mark. I was literally going to go,
clouds.
for those not aware. So, anyway, itch.io is pretty much one of the biggest sort of vendors of, like, indie games. It's sort of like, imagine Steam, but easier to get on. It's for, like, indie games and small games and stuff like that. They got taken down recently by Funko. So, what happened is...
Who's Funko?
They make Funko Pops.
Funko, the people who make Funko Pops.
They're like little figurines.
For context, Funko recently announced a video game called Funko Fusion that looks, in no choice words, terrible. It's very much brand slop. But what happened is someone seemingly, from what I can find out about this, from what I've researched, made a fan game-esque thing for Funko. Funko's brand protection software called Brand Shield saw this, and instead of just sending itch.io a DMCA or something, like as would be like sort of normal practice for this, sent a fraud and phishing report to their domain registrar, who then didn't inform itch.io and then just suspended their domain.
Which, for a company that makes its entire business off of selling things on the internet, is not good.
Not good at all, no. So then obviously itch.io, as you can see the Blue Sky post on the screen.
Sorry,
from
the
the
skeets.
statement they gave out.
Let's use the
skeet.
proper.
Is that what they're called? Is they called skeets?
Yes.
They are.
I wasn't too sure. I was about to say tweet, but then I realized that's not the correct term. They tried to get in touch with their domain registrar, didn't get anything from them. It was both their domain registrar and their host that got sent the fraud request. Their hosts informed them, and that's when they took down the page immediately. So if there was a DMCA, it would have just been solved. But anyway, so the domain registrar didn't get back. They got, frankly, realistically, rightfully annoyed, posted about it on Blue Sky, to which, this is where it gets a little bit insane. Is because the next, which you don't have a photo of on the slides, but the next post from itch.io is, "This is not a joke, Funko just called my mom." Which they just posted.
What?
They posted a picture of a text they got from their mom that just said, "Got a strange call from a company about accusatory statements on your social media. Call me." And we didn't hear back on that. Like, that's the last they said on them calling their mom. I don't know.
That's so absurd.
But then Funko put out a statement where they said, you know, we have big respect for itch.io. Like, the website later came back. They got the domain back about a couple days later. And Funko put out a statement where they were like, oh, we just put that, like, for a simple takedown request, you know, to address this specific page. Except they like, itch.io later put out, or at least, well, the founder of itch.io put out a separate statement after that going, it wasn't a simple takedown request. It was a fraud and phishing report to our domain registrar, and they claimed that they believe that Brand Shield, the AI-powered brand protection software, is the malicious actor in this. So that's what like, I'm reading wording from their statement, but they believe some form of malice or just incompetence from Brand Shield.
I do just appreciate the response of person running the itch.io Blue Sky page doing a hit or two off my weed cart, and now this video has been demonetized.
Bleep it, Cameron.
Wait, we were making money on this thing?
We're not now.
You guys are making money?
Anyway, to another case of AI going rather badly wrong. So we've made fun of Apple Intelligence's notification summaries feature on previous occasions on the show.
Fairly harmlessly, we should add. You know, there's been funny things like breakup text summaries where it's like, no longer in relationship, wants stuff back. Fairly harmless.
But in the past month, we've seen a case where the BBC complained because they came across, presumably through the community, of an Apple Intelligence summary of BBC's apps notifications, which gave a summary of a news story that was just incorrect. Because it said that Luigi Mangione, the man arrested following the murder of health insurance CEO Brian Thompson, had shot himself when this was completely untrue. So we've gone from notification summaries being questionable but amusing to notification summaries being factually incorrect on serious topics.
So essentially, it could start misinformation.
Which was absolutely bound to happen at some point.
Oh,
given
absolutely.
A large enough sample size of the hundreds of millions of users who now have this. I like that it says a spokesperson in BBC said they'd contacted Apple to fix the problem.
Apple declined to comment.
It's just the idea that this is something that can be fixed and not just a fundamental aspect of what LLMs are. That
I
they
mean,
will just
you should probably
generate.
just turn it off for news sites, right?
Yeah, I bet you somewhere behind the scenes they've got a documented way that says, if you send this part on this notification, it won't summarize it for you. But of course,
I don't think they do.
No? It's probably off by default and probably nobody's found it. Or if that doesn't exist, it's going to exist very soon.
I was going to say, yeah,
Is there not a way for an... I'm sure that I read somewhere that there is a way for apps to opt out of...
yeah, they put, if you are
notification
AI, do not summarize this. Then the notification...
I wonder if anyone's managed to prompt inject
they have.
notifications
Yes, they
yet.
have.
I will
Yes,
put
they
a card up
have.
for the video.
Oh, good.
I think we brought it up in previous episodes, haven't we?
Oh, wow. Nice.
You should,
Go and
we should watch
that.
our own show.
If we can... If
There is a little info thingy there. Click that.
You're giving me more and more jobs in the edit.
up there.
This video's never coming out.
Next up.
For some reason, you now have AI features in mouse drivers.
Oh.
Logitech have added a tool called the Logi AI Prompt Builder, which I've not been able to dig into the details of it, partly because the page on their website that supposedly explains how it works doesn't.
Helpful.
Basically,
Good.
if you find it too difficult when using ChatGPT to write the prompt to get ChatGPT to do something, you can now use ChatGPT to write the prompt for ChatGPT. So this is one AI helping you compose a prompt to give to another AI to actually get an answer.
Cameron, I have a question. I'm finding telling this AI how to construct the... you know where this is going immediately.
I do know where this is
I'm finding it quite difficult how to tell it. So could I have another AI that helps me write for this AI that then
just
writes for that AI?
AI all the way down,
What
isn't
I'd
it?
like to know is, why does my mouse software need this? Of all
this is what I was
things?
going to say. Why is it in the mouse driver?
I want my mouse to cook me dinner,
Like,
Mark.
you can
Is that
have
too
a
much to
mouse,
ask?
like a macro button on your like £100 Logitech mouse to open ChatGPT.
I need my ChatGPT button.
This is...
I'll tell you why it is.
This is...
It's because Logitech are playing a cat and mouse game with the whole AI thing.
Would you shut up?
Oh.
Thank you, Matthew.
What I was about to say
I'm gonna
is,
curse
this is
you
really
out.
annoying me. This is really annoying me because I use a Logitech mouse. Like, Logitech make really good mouses, and I'm annoyed that they're doing this now. But also, because Logitech make really good mouses, I don't see myself having to replace my mouse anytime soon, so I should be fine.
So you're fine. And I believe the final entry in this series is I saw this come by. I can't remember which exact GitHub repository this was on, but this was on one of Microsoft's open source projects on GitHub, where a user from the community sent in a pull request restructuring the README, because I believe it had a comparison of one or two features or components, and they restructured it to use a table rather than prose. And one of the maintainers rejected the contribution because part of their decision is that more and more folks are using AI chat to access guidance, and tables don't always translate well in that context. Of course, the decision received an immediate outcry in the GitHub comments section, and to their credit, the maintainer did then reverse course and accept the pull request after a number of users told them they were incorrect. But it's interesting to see that the idea of how easy to understand for AI something like documentation is now starting to make it into the considerations of humans maintaining documentation that is supposedly intended for human consumption.
Well, that's the only thing that Azure Copilot does well, is finding documentation that is somewhere in the Microsoft land of docs and be able to make sense of it and make you a command to fix whatever problem Azure had.
It's a very hyper-specific circumstance, that.
Yeah,
though.
I've had it several times at
Also-
work.
Well, yeah, I bet.
I would love an AI that just looked through the Microsoft land of documentation, found the documentation you need, didn't summarize it to you, and just went, it's over here, and pointed you to where it is and let me read it.
If you ask it, like, if you prompt it enough, it can do that sometimes.
I think what we've invented
Yeah,
here is a
but-
search bar.
Yeah, what I would like...
I think the product you're after here, Cameron, which,
If I had like something that like, you know, was, let's call it a search engine, and you know, it could be in like a browser or something, and then I could type things into it and it would bring me things up related.
can I...
No, it'll never catch on.
Well, no, because here's the thing. There's a company that has brought in a feature built around this idea. They're OpenAI, and they've introduced ChatGPT Search,
Oh,
Yes, they
no.
have.
which we have not covered on the show, and I don't think we intend to.
No, let's move on.
Moving on. Apple Juice is back. We are starting off with
With that.
the new Blackmagic Ursa Cine Immersive.
What have
which
they
is-
done to Wally?
It does kind of look like it's got little wheels
They've massacred my boy.
Looks cute.
It's
this-
now available for pre-order. It costs them like $30,000.
Yeah, it's $30,000.
But what is
it's
it,
the
Cameron?
first camera that shoots Apple Immersive video, so that's for the Apple Vision Pro. It is
That thing
180
they stopped-
degree.
They stopped producing that, didn't they?
They will only come back
Oh,
with
Blackmagic.
another Vision OS product.
Yes.
So it's the Vision Pro may be gone, but Apple's foray into spatial computing is not.
To be
So
clear, it's
currently-
still available for purchase. They just have produced as many as they think they're ever going to need, and so they've stopped making more.
Yeah, so this camera that has just been released for an insane amount of monies,
Yes.
they're not actually manufacturing something you can watch it on.
I will point out that in cinema camera money, £30,000 is not actually that much,
Yeah, but
which
this
is
is-
somewhat depressing.
Okay, this is
but-
Blackmagic.
Blackmagic camera.
True. To be fair, I think you can. The Blackmagic Ursa Cine, the base non-immersive video model, is still in the 5 figures of price.
I'm quite curious to see if this ever gets bought by anyone. I want to see one of these like in the wild.
There will be
somewhere
one
being
bought by
used.
someone just to see what it's like. Like, I bet
Hell's gonna
some
buy one.
YouTuber will get it.
MKBHD, I'm telling you.
Probably.
How do you edit it?
In Final Cut.
Yeah, Final Cut
Of
now
course.
has. Oh, actually, no. It has spatial video support. It doesn't have immersive currently.
So how do you...
But there are media extensions now.
Someone
so
remind me
we'll
what-
get it.
No, I bet you...
DaVinci Resolve.
Can someone
Oh,
remind me
that's a
what the
good point,
difference
Probably.
is?
Yes, I have a feeling DaVinci Resolve, if it hasn't already, will add support for it.
So
Sorry,
just
well,
to
you'd hope
clarify,
so.
Spatial and
spatial
immersive.
video is just like stereoscopic. It's a left eye and a right eye of a normal 1920 by 1080.
Right.
And when you view it in a Vision Pro or something like that, it has realistic looking depth.
Right, okay.
Immersive surrounds you. It's kind of a 180-degree field of view, and you can look around. It's VR
Right.
style.
Okay, I'm with you.
Having watched immersive video on a demo unit Vision Pro, I will say the effect is rather impressive because the demo clip that they had, I believe we talked about this in a previous episode, is that they had somebody on, I believe, a slack line across a massive valley, and there was a moment that they fall, and they are safety cabled in, but the moment that they fall, I physically felt my stomach drop.
That's impressive, yeah.
The
That's good.
effect is impressive. I just wonder how much content will actually be produced for it.
Yeah, the idea is with this out in the world, you might be able to like record a sports match from the halfway line, and you can sit there as if you're watching right there, or kind of intimate concerts with artists and you're in the front row that you can watch from anywhere. But will people actually adopt it is the question.
And will people have the means to watch them?
If we get 2 of these, right, and get the camera to stand
No.
back to back, could we get 360-degree
Have
full...
you got 60 grand?
Alternatively, you just get 2 Insta360s and glue them together. Other 360-degree cameras are available.
Can we have immersive video at home? I do that.
With extremely questionable interpupillary distance.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, hang on, because if you get an Insta360, right, it's going to be able to see the other Insta360.
Gaff. Can solve this.
I like the plan.
In other Apple announcements,
Well,
non-announcements.
Very far from announcements. We don't normally get an idea of what might be coming out this far in advance. Mark Gurman put out another edition of Power On, and he talks about a foldable iPad/MacBook product that Apple are apparently working on for 2028.
They're going into foldables.
Yeah, finally. So there's 2 products. There's
Ooh,
one that
finally.
is sort of a cross between an iPhone and an iPad Mini, and this one is sort of a cross between a bigger iPad and a MacBook, with about a 20-inch foldable display. And
Now-
apparently it'll run. They're not sure yet whether it'll run iPadOS or macOS, but if it's iPadOS, it will be capable of running macOS apps.
That was going to be my question, because the number one problem with Apple's forays into making the iPad, particularly the iPad Pro, into a more complete device, like with the addition of touchpads and keyboards, the problem has always been, and has remained so far, the fact that it runs iPadOS, which is just not as capable as macOS for the things that you would get a laptop for. And at the point that you are buying a iPad Pro and all the accessories, at that point, you may as well just buy a Mac. It'll cost you about the same, be about as powerful, if not more, and be able to do more
was
because
gonna
it
say
has
more
the software
usable.
support for it.
Yeah, more usable.
Here's,
But there'll never be
I'm
games
quite
on it.
intrigued by this.
So if
No.
they do bring what is effectively a foldable iPad running macOS, that's going to be interesting.
See, I've thought for a while that there is quite a cool opportunity to rethink. What if you had a laptop with a second display that is touchscreen rather than keyboard? You would have to have really good haptics. But the same way that, mobile phones used to have the bottom half was all just a physical keyboard, and then suddenly we've got UI that can change. You could kind of apply the same concept.
Really
But
good
I'll be
haptics
interested to see how
and
they'll
really
do
good
it.
palm rejection.
Yes.
I mean, isn't that supposed to be what the iPad screen sharing thing was supposed to be?
What, like Sidecar?
Yeah.
No, that's the opposite.
That's like a 3-second monitor on an
Well,
iPad.
to be fair, you can use an Apple Pencil on the sidecar display.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that will factor in, and that will be one of the input methods.
Fair enough.
And while we're on this, in the same edition of Power On, you will all be delighted to hear that Apple are finally working on a new Magic Mouse.
Oh,
And yes, they are moving
Are they
the
moving the
charging
port?
port.
Where's
They
the
are.
port,
They're going to
Cameron?
fix it.
Tell me where the
it's
port
going to be
is.
in a sensible location.
No
It's going to be on
way.
the front.
Wow.
Oh,
Innovation.
I'm actually. Do you know what? I'm buying a MacBook.
No, I think they're going to get an Apple Watch style puck.
Can I refer you to the Surface Dial? That method of input that 7 people bought. Citation needed. But now
different show,
we
Marks.
move into a topic that some time ago, Bossman over here
Me, hello.
sent a message in Slack that read,
So what is DevOps anyway?
and we thought it's finally time to attempt to explain the nebulous field that is sort of
We should
Emerged.
clarify that you and Matchster are both DevOps.
Yep.
Engineer. I don't know your job title. You're both
Those who
DevOps
aren't
of
aware.
some description.
we
Yes.
are DevOps professionals.
For context, I am an audiovisual specialist, so DevOps is over
Oh,
my
I'm a
head.
digital coordinator.
So-
Hello.
I'm a student.
So, back in the day, this all starts. So, suppose you run a software company that makes software, and in exchange for people giving you money, you give them access to your software over the internet. The sort of software as a service model. In the team, in your company, you traditionally have 2 teams, at least. There's a lot more, but these are the 2 that we will focus on today are development and operations. Development are the team that make your software, that add new features to it based on user requests, while operations are the people who keep the lights on. When the servers crash, they fix them. They generally also handle things like deploying the software, configuring it, scaling up when you simply do not have the capacity for the current number of customers you have. When you think about it, the aims and objectives of these 2 teams, or rather the desires of these 2 teams, are somewhat at odds with each other, because development want to have the freedom to do whatever they want, because they will come up with some wild idea for a feature, or the product team will come up with some wild idea for a feature, but anyway, and they will want to implement it however they want, however it makes it easiest for them. And so they want ultimate flexibility to adapt how their software is deployed. Operations, on the other hand, in a perfect world, nothing would change ever because it works, and if you change things, you risk breaking things.
It's my laptop. That's why I do my laptop. I don't touch it in case it breaks.
But scale that up to a software business, because every time you introduce change, you introduce the possibility of things breaking, and if things break in the middle of the night, somebody will have to pick up the phone and fix it, and you bet it's probably not going to be development. So these 2 teams that have to work closely together in order to bring software to the masses, because development need operations support in order to deploy the software and keep it running, while operations cannot just do everything by themselves because there is no software for them to deploy. Yet, these 2 mindsets are somewhat at odds with each other. So then you get into the practice of development operations, or DevOps for short, which is the sort of aim to, as much as possible, merge the mindsets of these, so to approach operations from a software development perspective, which means things like giving development teams more ownership of how their software is deployed to a point. So, for instance, one of the technologies that very much come into, it's not intrinsically tied to DevOps, but has become a very popular in the DevOps mindset, is containers. Because before containers, you would essentially have a bunch of source code that you drop on a server, probably compile in some form, and run it. And every application was done differently, meaning that the operations team would have to have a bespoke setup for deploying each applications. But much as shipping containers unified the shipping world in that you would no longer needed different equipment to carry every different type of load that could be placed on a ship, all you need is the ability to transport and move and sort containers.
That's actually a really good analogy.
Why do you think they're called that?
Yeah, I've only just clocked that.
Yes, the idea being that rather than having a bespoke setup for everything that could possibly be carried, you just put everything in a container that's the exact same size, no matter what's in it, and then you can have hundreds of them on a ship. In the same way as for software, you put it in a container which has everything that that software needs to run, and then it can be deployed on any system that supports that type of container.
Yeah, which a lot of them support the same thing.
OCI containers.
Exactly.
That's one of the things that's sort of come out of That's one of the practices that's become very commonly adopted in the DevOps world. Another one that's sort of had a great focus in is the idea of infrastructure as code. You know what I mentioned earlier about bringing software development mindset to operations? Well, what if instead of every single server that runs your software being bespokely configured by hand with combinations of shell scripts and elbow grease, you treated it as code? So say I wanted to add a new server to my fleet. I could just write some code that says, I would like a server, and then you run it in some form and you get a server. And then if you need to change the configuration for it, you just edit that code, run it again, and that server's configuration changes. Meaning, not only do you get more empowerment for people to make changes to the environment that the software runs on, but also you get all the benefits of source control for infrastructure. Because if an infrastructure change is made and turns out to be duff for whatever reason, you can find it in your source control platform of choice, revert it, and then deploy, hopefully, a fixed version.
Right, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So it's these sorts of things. I've only given 2 examples. The world of DevOps is a lot broader than that.
Yes.
In short, it is, what if software developers, but make them sysadmins? Or what if sysadmins, but make them software developers? ¿Por qué no los dos?
So, Jamie, you ready for the pop
Non-Espanol.
quiz?
Sorry?
You ready for the quiz?
Yeah, welcome to PowerPoint night.
There's one slide. But we don't have a quiz prepared, which I believe brings us to the end of this episode and the end of this year's run of episodes.
Untitled 2024 is done. That has been a wrap. And we've got a little montage, actually, of our 2024. So, in 2024, we did a show backwards. We went to Slough, we walked from one campus to another, live streamed an empty studio, ran for president, did a fully automated show, went outside, met a dog, did a show in 6 minutes, said goodbye to Wise TV, did a radio show from Poland, came face to face with gorillas, talked a load of AI bollocks, played noughts and crosses across Manchester, graduated, well, some of us, and joined the working world as adults.
Woo! It has been a year, certainly. And it's been a brilliant experience, and there's so much more to come in 2025.
I really look forward to doing it all again, but better.
Well, we'll see about that.
Again, certainly.
yes,
The
better.
more cursed, the better. We hope to see you there too. Thanks for sticking with us for this year, and keep watching or else.
I've been Matt Strat.
I've been Marks.
I've been Cameron.
I've been Kory.
I've been Jamie.
And all that's left to say is Merry Christmas, have a Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2025.
Have fun or else.
Bye.